I think it's impossible to read this headline and not assume that this is a play to reduce jobs.
5 years ago, data centers were not sexy.
Billionaires are in that space already.
Look at the stock market versus real business.
Is AI a bubble?
Does that mean that the tech is less valuable?
The money flowing is insane.
All right,
There are
switch.
literally engineers out there that are getting contracts the size of NFL stars.
The energy side of this is super fascinating to me.
They want to put data centers under cities. The consumer knows that they get it on some level for free because they're sharing their data.
Our predictions will be either very sagacious and ahead of our time, or we'll all look like fools. We will see.
Hi, welcome to episode 10 of AI Unplugged. Today, I'm here with Jeff Valentine. Hello, Jeff.
Hey,
Andrew Sinclair.
Back again. Hey, Trav.
Hi. And then JC,
Hey Travis, good to see you again.
also known as James Curtis. So today, we got a whole bunch of topics. We're going to go over from OpenAI to Jeff Bezos and all things in the middle. Andrew, you want to lead us off?
Well, there's been a minute since we last talked and a lot of announcements that have come out. It seems like every week there's new investments of tens or hundreds of billions of dollars in between NVIDIA and OpenAI and AWS and all these different players that, some have speculated. Looks a lot like the old Cisco days of vendors, buying their investments early. So it, makes you think of self-dealing and all these questions that really get up to the question of, is AI a bubble? That's the kind of buzzword, right? You've got your Peter Thiels of the world. You've got your Michael Burrys of the world kind of betting against the AI boom, maybe expecting some contraction there. I don't know. I missed a little bit of the old, original .com days. But, Jeff, maybe you
it's a
remember
strong
that
flex
more.
there on your age. Okay, that's great.
right.
I like how you just
Yeah, I'm the
repositioned
old
it
guy.
to Jeff immediately.
What do you
When
think
I-
of all these announcements of like $100 billion
Yeah.
going to NVIDIA, NVIDIA going over to OpenAI?
Okay, look at the stock market versus real business. The stock market might be overvalued. Maybe some companies like NVIDIA are overvalued, but that has nothing to do with whether or not the technology itself is going to be valuable in business. I look back at the .com days, like there are a bunch of companies that had huge stock price numbers, but they weren't necessarily worth that after the bubble crashed. It didn't mean the tech that they provided went away. The telcos that were overvalued got fairly valued. The telcos still exist.
Right.
I don't think that anybody's going away because of this, but certainly there's a lot of money flowing. I think I may not buy NVIDIA stock today, and that's probably my mistake, but I don't think that means we stop investing as a society in AI in general.
But is that the difference between a bubble and it being valuable? Like they are two different things.
Right. So what's a bubble mean? Is it a stock market bubble, or is it a businesses are writing big checks and they shouldn't be bubble?
I think to me, it's a latter.
But everybody else that is talking public markets, they're talking about whether or not the stock is overpriced. Perhaps on an earnings basis, these stocks are overpriced. Maybe. But I don't think that businesses investing in AI are going to spend less on AI simply because NVIDIA is building a new data center.
I don't think they're going to spend less, but like, would a technical team or a company who's building some solution or product in the market look at it and say, hey, we would have put $100 million into something, let's instead put $20 million into it? Does that mean that the tech is less valuable or it's not worth doing?
Is there anybody writing $100 million checks in business that are not in the data center business?
I don't know, maybe.
Well, yeah, I mean, we have, wasn't it Apple a couple of weeks ago hired an engineer for, was it $50 million? I mean, they're literally engineers in this field that are
Per
getting
person.
Per person.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Head
Yeah.
Seems a little frothy.
Yeah, but I mean, there are
I gotcha. All right.
there are literally engineers out there that are getting contracts the size of NFL stars.
Right. And maybe that goes away is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yep, fair.
Like Meta
not-
was doing that.
Yep.
Hiring.
Oh yeah, well, and they're jumping between and playing that same game as always. But yeah, for a handful of people, these salaries they're skyrocketing.
Game developers used to do the same thing, right? I mean,
Yep.
you'd join a game development firm, you'd end up, Travis, you know a lot about game development.
I don't know this at all. What are you talking about?
They are like rock stars, and they literally get a percentage of revenue, just like an NFL star would.
Maybe.
You don't think so?
Ninja.
I spent a lot of time in gaming.
Yeah.
In the gaming community. Everything that I've learned about it is that oftentimes developers, QA staff, and more get like really screwed more times than not when a game comes out and fails, or a
That's
game
right.
comes out they get let go prior to the game being in the market. So
That's
I don't know.
Because if they did stick around and they weren't kicked out, they would have gotten a large percentage deal.
Maybe. Yeah.
But the money flowing is insane, right? You have OpenAI signing a contract of $300 billion for Oracle Oracle in turn commits hundreds of billions of dollars to NVIDIA, and it just kind of goes
Yeah,
back
but they don't
and
have
forth.
that cash on hand, right? It's like that's the frothiness to me. It's just like it's fake money being hand traded hands.
Maybe it's not
effectively.
trading hands at all. Maybe
You know
these
what I mean?
maybe these
It's all
announcements are
paper.
just commitments.
Right, 100%. Right, but I think people look at it and say, "Oh, I have a commitment for something. I'm going to invest into that commitment."
Yeah.
But the commitment is someone else's commitment, someone else's commitment. Like it feels stacked on top of each other.
But those commitments are affecting real stock prices and real hiring and real like
Right.
this all does tie back to real money, whether that money is real or not.
Agreed. I don't know. I still have the sense that this is frothier on the hardware side than on the software side.
Really?
Because of data center builds. Data centers are expensive. They're large assets. And honestly, remember 5 years ago, data centers were not sexy. It was a very tough business.
That's true.
They were not building new data centers. Not everybody's building new data centers just for this capacity. They're talking about power requirements.
The energy side of this is super fascinating to me.
Yeah, which maybe that it's realized and maybe it doesn't. I can imagine stuff becoming more efficient and maybe needing less hardware, less data center space 5 years from now.
Did you hear what they just did in Finland last week? I don't know if they've built it yet or they've just proposed it. They want to put data centers under cities and vent the heat out to heat houses around there and reuse that and capture it.
Oh,
Wow. I did see
Huge
the
efficiency
satellite
gains.
data
Complicated.
center, and everyone's like, "Oh, it's cold in space," until you realize that you can't dissipate the heat.
Oh yeah.
So you need like 10 times the amount of heat reflectors in order to make it work. So data centers in the stars, maybe not quite yet.
Microsoft had a data center underwater for a while. It did not do well because it was hard for them to swap out components,
I could see that.
right? But for that reason of like being able to. So the other idea is interesting.
But talking of investments, the partner we are most closely aligned with, AWS, OpenAI announced a $38 billion commitment to use AWS, their cloud infrastructure,
Yeah.
which is something that was very new. It gets me excited in thinking about potentially any type of reciprocal announcements at reInvent, which we have coming up.
Yeah.
Obviously, OpenAI has been available somewhat through AWS on Bedrock.
Yeah.
But this seems like a new step that previously didn't exist in this partnership.
Yeah,
What else could be released at reInvent around OpenAI if it's already available?
currently there's GPT OSS, which is the open source model from OpenAI. That's what's on Bedrock today. It's not GPT 5.1 or 5, which is 5.1 just came out from OpenAI. So maybe there's a play there that may come out at reInvent. And I would actually look at Anthropic first for a moment, and not for their tech, but their channel distribution model. So Anthropic is in Vertex AI, so they're in Google. They have their own API, right? Just like OpenAI does. They're also on Amazon. They're also starting to spin up some partnerships in like Dubai, right, for like sovereign-based clouds over there. And so if you look at distribution channels, OpenAI's distribution channel is actually kind of narrow, right? It's Azure and it's themselves,
Right.
right? So I actually look at this as OpenAI is looking at how Anthropic is targeting enterprises, and they're saying distribution matters more than this B2C model they've had with ChatGPT and Sora and so forth, and they're actually playing catch up. So I can see GPT coming to Amazon. I can see it coming to GCP over time as well for the same reasons, just a distribution problem ultimately for them, right? So I think they're playing catch up a little bit into the enterprise space.
It seems like AWS has a strategy to have their own LLM like Nova, and also support other LLMs. It's sort of like native to Bedrock to actually do that kind of coordination. Does Google? Does GCP?
Yeah, they do. They have a product called Vertex AI. It's
And even
very
though it
similar.
competes with Gemini is sort of their front end go to market for B2C.
Yeah.
But the back end of GCP, you can still bring your own model.
Yeah. It's a very similar model to Bedrock in that way.
And you think that OpenAI is going to do the same thing with AWS?
I think they're looking at Anthropic's enterprise penetration, which they are winning the enterprise market right now. Anthropic is.
Yeah.
And they're saying to themselves, "Well, I want some of that." And how do they get to that level of distribution? Right? They don't do it with apps that regular users can sign up for, right? Or like Copilot deals of Microsoft. They need deep API integrations with enterprise vendors and cloud vendors, and so if they want to expand past Azure, there's only two other places they can really go, right, to get the distribution they want.
The models are interesting because, largely the market share has been shifting more towards folks using Gemini. And it seems like they've been taking most out of OpenAI and ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Are we seeing customers more looking for that? Or when you guys are talking to folks, why do you think Google seeming to win the slow and steady race.
I think it's once again a distribution problem. Ultimately, there's only two vendors who can do this well. It's Microsoft with the Office suite, right, or Google with G Suite, right, and Chrome and Android and so forth, because they own that IP effectively, and they can do what they want to them in that way. So I think there's two metrics here you should be thinking about. One is volume increase of usage, and then the proportion of that usage and how it's distributed to one vendor or another, right? And so ChatGPT and OpenAI, they were first to market. They took up most of the market share, right? But Google's been pushing Gemini through search interfaces. I mean, almost all of the new Android phones that are coming out have Gemini like really like heavily baked into it. Apple just announced,
Huge announcement.
right? Apple just announced they're bringing Gemini to Siri.
As much as we all love Apple Intelligence.
But this is all consumer focused. What does this have to do with the business to business use of AI?
What Andrew was describing was in the B2C market, there's a distribution of users using LLMs and search appliances like Perplexity and Google and Grok and
the
Claude.
metric I was using was traffic share. So that's
Right.
inherently a little more consumer focused.
Right.
Yeah,
And so
why does what consumers do predict what businesses are going to do?
I think there's a user expectation of how certain things work, right? So when enough people use a technology a very particular way, they have an assumption of how it's going to work in their business life. And when it doesn't work in their business life, they will ask for it or demand for it, right? So it's a sort of a groundswell up sort of motion in that way.
It's a great point. I suppose that what you're saying is that business users are going to gravitate towards productivity enhancing chatbots that help them do their jobs perhaps easier or better. But that's like completely different than the AI use cases we're seeing today in our customer base.
Yeah.
They're not asking for chatbots. They're asking for replacements for humans doing medial work.
Yeah, we're doing a lot of agent work right now.
Agent work,
Yeah.
document processing, things like that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
So
but
why is it so predictive that, let's say Google wins, just like they won the search wars? What if they win with Gemini, the AI consumer chatbot wars?
sure.
Does that mean that's going to change how we go to market with business use cases for document processing and agentic AI?
I don't think so. But look, there's nuances between like Gemini, for example, can do a million token context window, right? And you can do that now with Claude and Amazon Nova Premier. But that wasn't the case for a long time. Gemini had it for like a year. They're ahead of the market with the context window size of their models. So there's nuance on like how the models work and like how they behave. I do think it's stabilizing. Like if you look at the model releases and the features that come with them, like they're becoming more commoditized. They're all doing very similar things, right? So on the BDC side, I don't think that's going to influence like an enterprise's choice on what model. I think enterprises will choose for accuracy and price performance, right? Whereas consumers will choose for probably speed to accuracy to probably actually I'll probably say price to speed to accuracy, right? They want something cheap, they want it fast, and they're okay if it's can get wrong from time to time. An enterprise won't accept that. So I think there's a nuance here. It's the models you choose and the way you apply them.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Do you feel like the expectation of a consumer today, it's free, right? You go to Google, you get free
Yeah.
AI.
Mhm.
How is that translating in business? Why aren't businesses also expecting free AI? Or are they? Maybe for chatbots, they are expecting free AI.
I don't know. I don't think they
There's
are they?
I don't think that they are at all. And some of it is a data privacy problem, right? The consumer knows that they get it on some level for free because they're sharing their data. Every enterprise and even larger kind of SMB that we talk to, their first question is this project going to train on my data?
Right.
How are you keeping my data safe? And models like Anthropic and others on Bedrock, we have that guarantee from Amazon, and it's a very easy conversation. But I think for that reason, it would be kind of absurd for a business to come in and say, like, why can't I get this for free?
Right.
We have a good example. We have a customer of ours. I won't say who, and they provide social media based system, and they built a chatbot onto their product, and they were using OpenAI, and they went to an investor conference, and investors told them, "Hey, you can't use OpenAI. We don't trust them. We as a collective investor team don't trust OpenAI's usage of your data. You have to go somewhere else that's more secure." And so we got introduced to them because they want to come to Bedrock so that they have
For the
that
privacy.
security privacy requirement.
What about the context window? You mentioned a million token context window. I
Yeah.
don't think most people understand what that is.
Sure.
Why does the context window size matter? And how is it different for consumers and businesses?
Sure. So when you type to a chatbot and you give it like a 2-sentence question, right? That's you convert questions or words into what's called tokens. Tokens are like fractions of words. Call it like 2/3 of a word is a token, right? So for every one word, you get 2/3 of a token. You can only fit so many tokens into a request to an LLM. Most vendors are somewhere between 64,000 and 200,000 tokens. So Claude was 200,000 for a long time. It's the equivalent of like a 130 or 40 page book, think of like that. And for like you or I, when we chat with something, that's probably good enough.
Right.
But when you're like uploading like a manual or a PDF document,
Or 100 of them.
right, and you want to maintain some information across those pages or those documents, you may, depending on this use case, you may want a very large context window to support you in that, instead of like breaking a book down into microscopic pieces. And so for like document processing, large context windows are super helpful. For like agent systems, where you have to keep track of a lot of information about how the agent's performing, and
Including
its
the
next
history.
step.
I mean,
Yeah.
if you've done something, you've learned something
Exactly.
before, you need the history in the context window.
Right.
Well, and it's also how long can you carry on that process, right? You know, your first question might be 2 sentences, 3 sentences. If you're working with an agent, it'll kind of be interacting back and forth. How many steps can you take that until you do exceed that 200 mil or that 200,000 context window?
We're even seeing it used in scenarios where, with like MCP servers, like when an agent or a chat experience is interacting with someone else's, like you own an MCP server and I own the chatbot, and I connect to you, I have to defensively program my system.
So you don't take in too much data.
Yeah, because I have no idea what you're gonna give me.
Right.
Right. And so there's lots of techniques you can do to try to like fix it and like protect yourself, but you never really know. So one of the fallback strategies we've used in the past is we allow the context window to expand to 1 million under those scenarios, because we don't have a sort of stopgap, right? It's like a fail-safe. And then after we expand and consume your data, then we collapse it, so that we can go back underneath the 200,000, because we get charged more if you're over 200,000 tokens.
Interesting. Yeah. So the big difference you're seeing between consumer use, which may be expecting free, and business use, which is willing to pay for privacy and data security, also includes the context window size.
And accuracy.
They're going to need much
Yeah.
more data to process as a business, whereas you go to Google and you look for a recipe, you don't really need that bigger context window.
Right. Are you going to like double check the recipe?
Right.
You'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
Well, someone's obviously paying. The billionaires are definitely joining in. You have, Buffett with Berkshire, finally, after staying out of tech for so long, getting involved with, Google. Whether the AI piece is a part of it, you'd like to think probably, given that that's such a big part of their momentum in the market. And then also in the AWS orbit, Bezos himself, just hot off the press this morning, announced a new project called Prometheus. I've seen the movie, but not too sure what this new thing will be.
Maybe unrelated.
Really hope it's unrelated. That
Yeah.
I think we need to be recreating that.
Has anyone heard what that's about, or is that maybe
Just
something
read about
to
it.
be
James,
at
what do you
reInvent?
know?
Yeah, it was a quick article this morning. Bezos has partnered up with an expert in the AI field and is starting this Prometheus company to investigate, I think it was AI that is replacing basically manufacturing workers. So getting into the auto industry, getting into the spaceflight industry, sort of anything that's going on in a factory seems very parallel to,
Like
interests that
humanoid
Amazon
robot
might
type of
have.
thing?
We don't know any specifics yet, but it's how can they automate processes within these factories and plants. And I think he's co-invested 6.2 billion of his own money in it.
Pocket change.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, right? That's
But it's interesting. It's the first job he's taken since he stepped down as CEO of AWS or of Amazon.
Yeah, that's a great
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
I mean, billionaires are in that space already. You've got Musk, who has XAI or Grok, looking to make that part of Tesla, which didn't end up happening. But Tesla themselves betting very big on humanoid robots, and so that seems in the manufacturing, in the job replacement space. I think when we started this pod, it was a lot about are the jobs going away? What does that look like in an AI environment? And so the robots, they keep coming back, much like the Terminator.
I think it's impossible to read this headline and not assume that this is a play to reduce jobs, right?
Yeah.
Whether it is humanoid robots, whether it's I'm trying to remember. There was a headline last week that Amazon is trying to reduce the workforce in all of their warehouses by 50 to 60%.
Oh.
So there's clearly a play here and the first kind of, as far as I know, the first outright play to eliminate human workers. But it's an interesting thing to keep an eye on.
It's like a volume thing. There's this whole study that happened, like, I don't know, like a couple months ago, where they found that companies who basically commoditized their services drove the price down dramatically. They had such a volume increase because it's so much more approachable by consumers that they inadvertently, increase their revenue and end up hiring to another areas to
That's got to
accommodate
be
that.
the result. I mean, do you really think the result of AI, maybe we've already covered this in a prior episode, but the result of implementing AI tech, maybe short term, a particular role is no longer necessary. Does that mean that that person doesn't learn new skills and move into a different role? Does it mean that a software developer that may no longer be necessary doesn't become a product manager?
I don't know if I'm on board with AI agents or otherwise or systems replacing someone's job function. We built so many of them at this point that like I keep looking at them as like high-end business process automation systems than I would say replacing a job function type of a thing.
Yeah.
So I could definitely see like someone stays in role, but the expectations of the work volume they have doubles.
Right. Which
Right.
means there's not going to be. So where does the productivity enhancement come from? If if the company still employs the same number of people, spends the same dollars on labor
Yeah.
over time,
Right.
how much more productive do they really get? Are they doing more per unit of time because of
Effectively.
AI?
Yeah.
And
100%.
therefore everything goes a little bit faster.
I feel like I'm the news guy here because I always say, hey, I heard this, I remember this, but I just saw that Cursor had hit a $29 billion valuation,
Yeah.
of their latest financing round. And so that is a huge tool for developers using AI. And if you look at the reduction in force that was widely announced with Amazon, a lot of that were for SDEs and developers. So do you think there's a correlation there between Cursor's rise and the big players like Amazon shrinking their development force?
It's funny. Travis and I were kind of having a similar conversation this morning. Our cursor bill here has gotten increasingly larger every month, and we're talking about like how can we reduce costs? How can we get this back in back within the budget? And my response is kind of it's still cheaper than one more developer. Like
Mm.
hasn't our work accelerated so much more than it would have with just hiring one more developer? Like isn't this worth it?
And for us, it's a fair point. I mean, we're a services company, so we basically our people are the product at the end of the day. We have more people than ever. We're not
Yeah.
decreasing hiring, we're accelerating hiring. So I think what's happening, just looking at our own team, is they're just being more productive because of some of these tools. They can get more done. Which doesn't mean you need less people. It just means you're able to do more for your clients and deliver more value.
Right.
Well, there'll be certainly some trends that come out from reInvent. That's something that we're all looking forward to. It's the AWS big conference. For those that haven't been, buy tickets now. Come meet us there. It's going to be great. But any sneak peeks on what you think we might be looking for there? I know it's a great opportunity for us to engage with customers that are coming into Las Vegas, our AWS counterparts, huge center of gravity for getting people together. But inevitably, there's exciting announcements they want to drop that we're not privy to, but sometimes you can read the tea leaves and any rumors that you guys are hearing.
Not a rumor, but I do have a prediction.
Let's hear it.
I believe that AI is going to be more verticalized than ever at this reInvent conference.
What
I
do you
think
mean?
we're going to be talking about the inefficiency. You just mentioned the new Jeff Bezos startup attacking more of a manufacturing base, for example. AI for manufacturing, I can imagine being a focal point. AI for public sector makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of waste in the government. There's already tailwinds, if you will, behind reducing costs of the public dollar that we spend. I have a feeling that AI and maybe even OpenAI moving into public sector through AWS is a good decision for sort of the market move right now. I have a feeling as we're seeing healthcare, we're seeing financial services, we're seeing these verticals take off with vertical specific AI solutions. I think that's what reInvent's going to be about this year. More about that than particular tweaks to technology.
Interesting.
I agree with you. Yeah. I also think we're due for a new Nova launch. Amazon's been actually too slow, quite frankly, when it comes to Nova. Like if you look at like a first party model like a Gemini from Google, right? Or if you're Microsoft, look at Gemma, right? Was it Gemma or it's Google, I think also. But anyway, they release on like a 6-month cadence, sometimes even 3 to 6 months cadence, right?
And they recompile an LLM.
Yeah, they train a new LLM and they put it in the market. It's been a year. That's not true. That's not super fair to Amazon. They put out Nova Act. They put out Nova Premiere. They announced Nova Premiere at the last reInvent, but a few months later, Nova Premiere came. So really, like things like Nova Lite, Nova Pro, Nova Micro, which is a more consumer grade, like small models, right, for high volume tasks. They have not had changes in quite a long time.
So you expect a new Nova announcement?
I would be shocked if there wasn't one alongside of something like an OpenAI,
Yeah.
right? To show like, hey, here's your low cost, high performance or medium performance Nova. Here's your medium cost, medium to high performance OpenAI. Here's your high cost, high performance Anthropic.
That
So you can
can't
see
be the
them
most
having-
exciting thing we see out of reInvent, though, right? I mean, it's
True.
price performance ratios. I mean, we talk about new Graviton chips and other things that make it better to run on Amazon.
Hey, the conversation is going to be dominated by like Agent Core.
I would imagine
Yeah.
Agent Core is the bigger announcement.
Well, do you think with the OpenAI announcement that they are using AWS as a platform, there would be some type of reciprocation there of a wider adoption of ChatGPT for people and customers in the Amazon ecosystem? That seems to make sense to me.
I don't know.
ChatGPT is so consumer focused? I don't know. I don't feel that.
Or maybe there's consumer announcements, right? We talked about Microsoft with their Office suite, Google with, their G Suite, getting more customers and having, strong momentum
Are
in
you
the market
predicting
there.
an Amazon?
The Fire Phone's coming back. AI, baby.
I can't imagine.
Like, so
We'll see. It'll be fun.
please do God no.
Well, awesome conversation, guys. We will, of course, see you all in Vegas for reInvent. Our predictions will be either very sagacious and ahead of our time, or we'll all look like fools. We will see. But in any event, always great getting together. Thanks, James.
Thank you. Good to be here.
See you.